Welcome to The Varied Life, and we're going to look at how to do text and graphics in our favorite laser engraving software, Lightburn. So hang on to your hats as we're doing more laser engraving hobby tech stuff by Steve, the retired hobby tech guy. Let's get started. Hey everybody, Steve here from The Varied Life, and today we're going to be playing with Lightburn. So for those of you who are new to laser engraving and cutting and doing all that stuff with whatever great machine you have. So with that, let's get acquainted with Lightburn and we'll show you some tips and tricks for graphics in Lightburn. So let's go ahead and get to it. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to open up Lightburn here, and with Lightburn we can do a number of things. First of all, just a little quick orientation to show you where everything is. If we go up to the top, what we end up is start a new project. We can open projects, we can save, we can import, we can do or redo, and then we have your cut, paste, delete, and then we have some other things on here, like we could pan and drag the view. We could center our build area to fulfill the screen that we have in this viewing area here. So this is the actual engraving area that I have, which is 80 by 80 millimeters. But I want this to fill up the screen, so I can just go ahead and hit that little magnifying glass with that dot there, zoom to the page, and now I've got my build area filled in that area. The other thing we could end up doing is zooming in, and then we could also zoom out. So we could do that. This over here is zoom to frame selection. And so, yeah, I've never used that, so give it a try. Tell me what it does. Then we have some general settings for Lightburn for units and grids and things like that. Camera, import, export, display, all of that. We don't need to get into that. The next one over here is actually your device settings. So when you have your laser engraver, you can use this to change some of the settings. So the width and the height of the engraving area that you had these are some preview or simulation settings, which could be important, and you can find some of these within the documentation on some lasers, or you could read it directly from the controller that we see there. So in other words, your laser is on. What Lightburn will do will query your machine, and it will automatically fill all this information up here, and you'll be good to go. But that's what that ends up doing. And then we have some other things like group, ungroup. We can flip objects and graphics and text, horizontally, vertically, and then we have a line, doing some laser stuff and other things. That's a little bit more entailed than what we're going to do today, because we're just going to play with some graphics and some text and show you how we can manipulate that. So with that, let's go over here to the left side, and we've got your selector that you can select items, text, graphics, so on and so forth. Over here is the draw lines, so you could draw lines freehand. Honestly, I've never used that. Pretty much just stick with what we have here, like creating squares and rectangles. If you see here, it's in real small print, but it says shift plus drag to make a square. It'll keep everything square. If you just drag, like let's go ahead and do this. If we just go ahead and we hold shift down and then we draw, it'll make a perfect square. And as we can see that by the dimensions of the width and the height. So let's say we don't want to do that, but we don't hold down the shift. Now we can start making it a rectangular or whatever shape that we want. And even then, if we go back to our selector tool, then we can drag, drop, we can make it bigger, smaller, wider, whatever it is. There's a lot of different options that we can end up doing. We get down here to the ellipse tool or the circle, we could do the same thing. So if we click that and we hold our shift key down and we create a circle, boom, there's our circle. And the great thing about this is we go back to the selector tool, we can adjust this as a perfect circle as indicated by our numbers, 45.386. But let's say that we need a circle that is, let's say it's 50. And it needs to be a height and a width of 50. So if I go ahead and click this, we'll select that and we type in 50 and we hit enter. Notice how the height and the width is now 50. Well, part of that is due to this little lock here. This will lock that aspect ratio. If I unlock it, and let's say I want the width to be 75, now we've created kind of an oval shape. And again, we can still go through and we can manually adjust this to however big we want. So yeah, something to be aware of when you're doing your shapes, and if there is a certain dimension that you absolutely need to have, then you can do that as well. The other interesting thing that you might want to know about this is that, let's say if it's, let's just go ahead and make this 50 all the way around, and let's say I have something that I know the dimensions that I need to reduce it by 10, and it will automatically do the math. So let's say it's 40, and I hit the plus sign, and I need to add 10 millimeters to that. I hit enter. It's automatically going to use that function of add and subtract and so on and so forth within that height and width entry, which is a pretty neat little feature. So you can get really, really accurate and precise in regards to your measurements if that's what your project needs. Some other things we can end up doing, you could make an octagon, which is again the same thing. We can click that, hold shift, and we can get a perfect size octagon. This one down here is we have cut away actions of pass by clicking. We have this one here is add tabs, so we'll save that for another video. The other thing we end up having is our text. So if we click text, we can click our area and we can put some sample text on there. And the great thing is we can move this around, and if we grab one of these corners, we can make it big, small. We can also stretch it in those directions there. The other thing we can end up doing is going up to the center up here where it says font, and we could change the font to whatever we want, which is kind of neat. So you can end up changing things, and then you could change the height and the width. It's pretty drastic as far as the changes between each click, but if you have a certain dimension that you need, and let's say it's 8, you can just go ahead and hit 8, and you can adjust it that way as well. I like copper plate. We can manipulate this text. We've got our selector tool, we've selected our text. The other thing we can end up doing is something that a lot of people have asked me about, 3 or 4 compared to 0, I guess that's a lot. What you can end up doing is they want kind of a rounded text, and kind of like in a semicircle. Well, you notice this little dot here, this little purple dot, what we can end up doing, and how it kind of has that little arc right there. We can grab that and left click and drag, and we can drag that text around to a point of where we can get it to cover pretty much whatever we want as that angle. The other thing we can end up doing is taking that same thing, left click and drag, and we can take that up as well. So again, there's a lot of cool stuff that we could end up doing with this tool in regards to text. And that will come in handy when we take a look at our little practice session that we're going to end up doing. So let's say that we want to do a circle. We're going to do an ellipse, and we're going to start up here at the top, and we're just going to left click and drag as we hold that shift, and there we go. And we're just going to kind of center that, and we should be good to go. Maybe I want to fill up the entire build area or engraving area, so we'll just drag these down like so. We'll bring this to where it says move to the center of the page, and we're good. But what I want to end up doing now is I want to remove a lot of that material that's on the inside. So what we can end up doing, notice it's set to fill. Normally it would be set to line, and we select that, and we can go down to this tool right here, which is offset shapes. So if we click that, and we can have a circle or an offset distance of a certain amount go from the outside to the inside, or we could do from the inside to the outside. That's what this one is here. This is the default, or you could end up doing both for some strange reason. Let's just go ahead and we'll keep it inward, and you could play with the round. We'll just keep it like that. And if you need a certain distance because of whatever, you can change that by using the toggle, or you could just do it manually and you could type in, let's just say 5, and boom, there you go. Now, once we've done that, the interesting thing is that each one of these things will be its own separate shape. So we'll just hit Control Z because I have a Mac, and each of these things will move in and of themselves. But we don't want that. We want this to be one shape. So if we go down here to the bottom right, we'll left click and we'll drag and hold and see that green box. When we do that, that will select everything that that green box touches. So let's go back, and like say if I go from left to here, it's just the red. The only reason that this isn't selecting everything is because with the red, when you go from left to right, and we notice this is red, we have to have the entirety of everything for it to be selected. So when we're looking at using bottom right to the upper left, we can select everything, and once we've done that, we put our cursor on the item, and what we could end up is hitting group, or what we can end up doing is going up here, and we can also select those items as group. And once we've done that, and now we can select, and everything is selected on this. So let's just go ahead and we will put this onto the center of our screen, and notice it says line. So basically what we'll end up having is 2 lines will be engraved on whatever material this is. If we change this to fill, now we've got a cool little fill on our build area. Now let's say that we want to put some words in this. And again, we're going to go back to the text, and we want to word wrap some text on the inside of this. So what we're going to end up doing is we'll just go to our text tool, and we'll say we want to do a coffee. And we're going to do premium coffee. And we'll just make that, we'll select that, and we'll make a new layer by clicking down at the bottom, and we want it to say premium coffee. We want this text to fit within this blue band. So we're going to drag this up there, and we're going to take a look. We're going to say, okay, well, it needs to be a little bit smaller. So you could reduce this by clicking the height of the text, or what you could end up doing is selecting it and making it bigger or smaller that way. So you've got a couple of options in the way that you can get this, and we want to put this right in the middle, about right there. And then we can kind of zoom out. We'll center this in, and we'll grab that little purple spot, and we'll left click and drag, and we can kind of get what we want. And again, we have to play a little bit with this, and to get the actual setting that we want, and we might actually end up having to tilt it this way or that way. And I think that's kind of a happy medium right there. So that looks pretty good. Now, what we can end up doing is that if we want this to be clear, in other words, we want this to be transparent for some reason, we're going to go ahead and we're going to click our circle shape, and then we'll hold shift and we'll click the text, and then we start getting these Boolean things that we can do. We can go back down and we can hit the next one, which is the subtract. And now if we zoom in here, we can see the lines, and now the text is just a cutout from that shape. So whatever's behind there, this might be useful if you're doing certain engraving on certain colors, backgrounds, so on and so forth. This could be beneficial. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and let's do another one, do some other text, and we'll put established 1966, which is, and I think we'll make that black as well, and we'll drag this down here into the center, bring that a little bit down, and then we'll wrap this up a little bit. Now we have premium coffee and are established in 1966. So what we're going to end up doing is kind of go out, we'll use this click or drag, And now we're just going to go ahead and we can right click and we can go to group. So now everything that is here has been grouped together in its own little place. So we go back up here, we're going to center this to the page, and now let's say that we found a graphic that we want to put on the inside of this. So we're going to do that, but before we do that, we're going to move this out of the way. So let's go ahead and just move that up here a little bit. Just keep that in the back of our mind. And now we're going to input a graphic here. And we found this really cool coffee graphic that we see right here. We're going to drag this into Lightburn. It's obviously way too big, so we're going to go up here to width. I'll just do 75, and that is going to bring this graphic here. But the problem with this is that we've noticed, if we zoom in here, all that's going to be white. But we want that to be transparent. So what we're going to do is a mask function. So let's go ahead, and what we're going to end up doing is we're going to click on our T1 and T2. Doesn't matter which one. Let's do the circle. And we'll hold our shift. We'll come down, and we select that as our tool layer. Then we will grab, hold shift, and click our graphic. And then what we'll end up doing is right-clicking and apply mask to the image. And so now we click off, but if we click on to our graphic, see how it's kind of masked the shape of the circle? So now we can take our graphic and we can make it fit within here. Let's say we just want to kind of play around with it, and we say, okay, well, that's pretty much what we want for our graphic. So now what we end up doing is we'll click off it. We'll do this click and drag our green box up. It selects both of those, the tool layer and the graphic, and we right click, and it says flatten image to the mask. And so now when we do that, this is our item. So pretty much we're good to go. So we can resize this to whatever size we want. So let's go ahead and we'll put this in the center. Now let's go back up to our other, and we'll bring this and put this in the center. And now what we can end up doing is kind of manipulating this to where it's in the center, and boom, we've got our premium coffee logo established in 1966. And we're ready to print. So the only thing that you would need to do now is to go up here, and you could set your settings, like say we're going to do this on bamboo, so I know off the top of my head that's going to be 5,000 for the laser that I have. At 50, we don't have air assist, and we're going to set that to 0.05. So we have lines per inch is 508, and we're good to go. And for our image that we brought in, if we right click, that'll kind of tell you what you're looking at. So if we right click on image, that tells you what it is. We can double click, and we can set these manually. 5,000 at 50%, no air assist. We'll set this at 0.05, and that is going to be good to go. Go over here, it says create new from layer. And I could click this, and I could call this bamboo. I'm not worried about this thickness. And engrave 5-watt laser. And we'll just put 5-watt in ENGRAVE. And if we hit OK, then that will put this into our library. And then now what I can end up doing is clicking assign, and all of the settings that we just did will go to that image. But that's how you can add items to your library, and now you're good to go. There's a lot of different ways in which we can manipulate text and graphics. Those are just some of the ways that you can do that. And just as, let's say we finish this up, what we could end up doing is just kind of grabbing everything, and we can group that. So now we can drag this and do and resize to whatever shape that we want as far as the size. So yeah, let's say we have a certain, let's say it needs to be 75, and we could even make it for the aspect ratio, we'll make the bottom 75 just to make things happy. And then what we could end up doing is clicking, put that to the center of our page, and we are good to go. So that's a way to do that. The other thing we can end up doing is double checking and going up top to where it says the preview, or you could use the Alt+P, and you could check your engraving on whatever material you're going to do. So in this case, it was going to be bamboo, and we could run through the slider bar, and it will show you the order in which it will do the circle, and then the graphic, and then down here it'll take a total time of 37 minutes and 27 seconds, estimated time. But there's another thing that you could end up doing. So let's go ahead and click this graphic, and we'll right click, and we could convert it to a bitmap. Let's see, we go down here, double click, and we could change some of the settings on this as well. So as far as image mode, you could do threshold, and pretty much what I do is I would go for Jarvis. And because we do have some grading, and it's not just purely black and white, and then when we go up here to our preview, we can kind of see some more of the details that are entered in on that. So there you have it. We did a little bit of playing around with text and graphics, getting used to Lightburn, especially as somebody who's a new user. I found it's invaluable to play with the software, get a general familiarity with the program and the different things, and it'll help you in your learning curve to get to doing what you want to do, which is engraving. I am Steve, the retired hobby technician, and if you appreciate the information that came out from this video, please give a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Varied Life. You can find that. You can also buy me a coffee if you really appreciate that. I would like that, but no need. But at least do a like and subscribe. And I think we'll finish up this video, and we hope you have a great day, and we will see you on the next one. Peace. Yeah, I think that's it. Bye. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to stay up to date with what's going on with us. The Varied Life is we're retired in Korea, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace.